In a world where hopium and common sense collide, starring the CryptoKeeper and BlockchainCrusader. Welcome to Debate Crypto. Question everything, trust nothing. It's your boy Keeper and MineYour.Biz. All right, we've got a little different lineup tonight. Your boy Crusader taking the evening off. He's got a few things going on at home, so we are going to allow him to be replaced by your boy Seth from MineYour.Biz. Seth, how are you doing this evening, bro?
Man, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. And Miguel, wherever you are with the fam, bro, decompress. Take that Friday night. Have a weekend, brother.
That's right. We love you, bro. We appreciate you as always. So, Crypto fam, obviously you could be anywhere, but you're here. It's Friday night. You could be out partying, could be out doing whatever it is that you do on a Friday night. I know I'm old now, so I sit at home on a Friday night. But hey, that's neither here nor there. We appreciate you for being here. Make sure you guys smash the likes. Jump into the Discord. Listen, these are all really simple things that take like 2 seconds to do, but they really do support the channel. So we appreciate the love there. And then, as always, when we have a guest on the show, follow the guest, right? That's kind of how this works. We work together, and then, hey, that's somebody new. I like what he had to say or she had to say or whatever. Make sure that you do that as well. And Seth's MineYour.Biz is down below the stream. So checking in with the chat. We appreciate you for being here. Mark says, in the house, boys. Alan's got the little party face going. He's ready to get it. Alan, what is up? We got some of the DCA fam. Kenton in the house. Sean from New World. Michael, the Rob Father, guys. We appreciate you all for being here. So before we dive into this evening, guys, let me tell you, is going to be What If Wednesday-esque. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit different Friday night. We're still going to dive into the markets. We're going to talk kind of basically where we see things right now. But then we're going to dive into a subject that a lot of you might not actually be familiar with. And to be fair, I had to brush up on some of this myself. This was this Seth's idea, and I was like, dude, let's do it. That's a great topic. So we're going to have fun. Stick around for that. Let's kick it off with checking out what's going on in the market. So we have got the global crypto market cap. Let me update this. Make sure we don't get a false read here, false temperature. Is 936.41 billion with a B dollars. That's up 1.49%. So bear market material, you already know what it is. Bitcoin up 1.24%. ETH up about 3.5%, a little bit more. You guys know how this goes. We've got everything all the way down to, so check this out, Seth. Tether. So now ready? 3, 4, and 6, right? Stable coins right off the, so like it's, we're in a bear market when the stable coins are like ripping up the freaking charts. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's definitely, it's definitely happening. And then BUSD, right? So
yeah, BUSD, it's funny. It's shown surprising resilience in terms of there being sort of a stablecoin war this time around, which we didn't have last bull run, by the way. Yeah. Tether was like the only game in town. So to see BUSD like come from nothing all the way up to like the position that it has right now in the market is like, dang, whatever CZ and Co have been doing over at Binance to be able to back up their stablecoins, like people are buying it.
Well, you know what? On Around the Blockchain tonight. So I normally, for a lot of you know that, I had been for a while on Around the Blockchain on Mondays. And so I got switched this month. It was actually just kind of a mistake, a mix up, which is cool. I got moved to Fridays. So I was on today, and technical difficulties. By the way, for anybody that was watching, I was smashing everybody. I was about to take that win. I was about to take that dub tonight. Then 3 of the 4 of us got kicked. Like it literally just did some wild whatever, right? And if you're out there, Crypto Stash, you're welcome, buddy. You're welcome, because Stash stayed in there and Stash took the dub. But no, what I was going to get at was, we talked about, I don't know if you've seen this, but the USDC has now basically put out their numbers as to their actual backing. So we started talking about it, and kind of, I don't know what your thought is on this, Seth. I'd love to kind of hear what you've got on this before we dive into the other topic. USDC is holding 70%, I think is the number, in US Treasuries, 30% cash. Okay, we've got 10% inflation going on right now. The stable coin, right, and 10 I think is a nice way of putting it, but hey, I digress. A stable coin is holding 30% cash, 70% treasuries, obviously risk off assets, kind of, I guess. I don't know if you consider cash at this point a risk off asset. It probably technically is, but it doesn't feel like it. Do you believe that it's because Circle is the chosen one? Do you believe that USDC is going to be the chosen one, and that's why they're getting pressured to put these numbers out? Or do you think that they're trying to almost do a marketing campaign and say, hey, listen, we'll show you our books. We got nothing to hide.
Yeah, I think it's probably the latter. I really do. I think it's a lot more than trying to be good actors in the space, trying to show good faith. Also, they were the first to apply for federally chartered national bank status.
Okay.
Of the issuers of stable coins. And so I think Circle and the Center, I think they're trying to set themselves up as the first sort of crypto friendly, it's bank-ish stable coin. And so like, yeah, they're trying to do something very, very different from what Tether was doing initially. Tether was trying to create something that was, bloody useful for crypto. And it was, right? Like we wouldn't have seen $20,000 Bitcoin in 2017 if it weren't for Tether. But like, Circle came along and said, we could probably do something different from that, but then fill that same need of having a stable coin that does assist on exchange and then on chain in giving solid price support to decentralized currencies like Bitcoin and others on the various smart coin networks, smart contract networks where USDC is accepted and used. So I think that like their whole reason for being was a little bit different from USDT. And I think what they're doing right now by trying to release those numbers is to kind of prove that difference, right? It's like, okay, we told you we're going to be a little more transparent. So yeah, this is just proof at this point. I don't know that it comes from all that much pressure, but I still have my concerns, Keeper. I really do. Like with USDC, I still think they can fudge it just a little bit. I think that for a while they were telling us that they had something called commercial paper as part of their holdings, as part of their backing. And in my mind, that's a fudge word. That's a wiggle word. And for them to say like, no, it's 70% treasury.
It's a broad like umbrella topic, right? It's like, we hold like some of this in there.
Yeah, right. It'd be like saying we hold real estate, but it's like, in this friggin' like godforsaken side of Detroit. Like, who cares? Like, you got real estate, right? No, it's garbage. Like, not all of these assets are equal. And it sounds like it's risk off, but like I'm actually more concerned about bonds and treasuries than I am about the dollar right now, because what's backing that?
The macroeconomic conditions right now, just as a whole, make me nervous. Right? I actually kind of on the topic, but off the topic. I got I have a SEP IRA. It's a self-employed IRA. And believe it or not, guys, I'm not 100% crypto. Okay. I actually have some other stuff going on here. And I got it in the mail, just the monthly statement on it. And I opened it up and I'm getting murdered, right? It's almost like I've been losing money, right? And it's the stock market, right? You're like, damn, that hurts. You know what I mean? And I explained it to my wife, like, hey, this is how this works. She was like, well, I don't even know why we're doing that then, right? And I'm like, well, listen, you got to remember that that's going to continue to come out no matter what. And it's the same type of idea when we DCA into crypto. You're buying those share prices at, down dirt bottom prices so that when it does move back up, then it heads back the other way. And what with the stable coin, I think that it's interesting because they're showing it to you, but I just question you said it. They're trying to almost be that bank. Isn't that the crypto antithesis? Like, didn't we not want banks, which was part of the reason, like that we kind of said, hey, we can be our own bank. And now we've got Circle and the other, stable coins pushing in, basically providing banking services or damn near. And it'll be interesting because the first one of them to offer FDIC insurance, that's going to be the winner. The one that's actually able to offer some of these big wig investors, hey, some actual real, the protection, right, is going to be, I think, the winner in the space. So it's going to be really interesting to see.
I think you're totally right there. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the stuff that we think we're trying to move away from when it comes to sovereign holding of cryptocurrencies, decentralization and all that, like people still do want security, which is why, like you're saying with the SEP IRA, right? Or if you have like a Roth IRA or whatever, you have like one of these checkbook IRAs where you can get into some cryptocurrency holdings. That's why there's so many people who are bullish on ETFs, right? So like we talk about like, crypto doesn't need an ETF, Bitcoin doesn't need an ETF, but then like yourself, if you got some traditional investment vehicles, you're like, no, it'd be pretty cool actually to be able to DCA into some Bitcoin in that IRA. Yeah, right. Like, so you'd be able to like get that kind of exposure to those asset classes, but in the like using the vehicles that you already come to use over a career's worth of experience. So like, it is hard to get people to change. And not because that necessarily they're looking just for the elimination of risk, but because it's like, nah, man, I've got this other stuff that's already in flight. Like, how do you land and take off in something new when you got like X amount of years worth of your life tied up in investments somewhere else. It's hard.
No doubt, dude. No doubt. Hey, Kenton, thank you very much. Kenton popping out a super chat there. As always, supporting the show. Thank you, Kenton. Says 990 members in the DCA Discord. Guys, let's see if we can get to 1,000 members in the Discord tonight. I know a lot of people in the chat are already in the Discord. Let's see if we can bust 1K. Listen, when we bust, if we bust 1K tonight, I'm whitelisting 10 people. So you guys figure it out. I'm going to whitelist 10 people. The free mint is on the 30th, right? If we bust 1,000 tonight, right? So we got what, like about 4 hours and 15 minutes. Don't be putting any bots up in there either. You guys know how we got the verification system set up. That ain't gonna do it. Get us up over 1,000, guys. Let's do 10 new whitelists. So I'm excited. Okay, so let's get into the reason we brought you on this evening, Seth. So first of all, the topic, guys, is and some of you might not be familiar with this, and I'm going to have Seth actually explain it. But the topic is called ESG. It's environmental, social, and governance criteria. Seth, so the word ESG, when you hear it, if you're trying to explain it to somebody that's never heard it before, because I know it's going to be a topic that people are going to be like, huh? What is ESG?
How much time do you have?
Yeah. Well, let's explain it to like, I don't know, a 15-year-old, something like that.
Okay. I'm going to explain it to a 15-year-old who's either politically neutral or maybe a little right of center. Explaining or maybe a little bit right of center, I'm going to call it the woke washing of politics.
Washing. Okay.
The woke washing of politics. You're trying to force companies and you're trying to force organizations to check off all these little boxes that don't actually help them perform better. About the public narrative and the PR. Look, we're doing the right thing, but it doesn't necessarily help you achieve your objectives.
Okay.
So environmental, social, and governance criteria would be like, to use that example and extend it just a little bit for that 15-year-old. Okay, so for environmental perspective, that would mean saying that like, oh, we're going green by the year 2030, or we're decreasing carbon emissions in this particular industry to save the environment by this % by this time, because we have to, because obviously think of the environment.
Yeah.
And then same with making sure that we're more inclusive in this way. Well, why? Is it going to improve the bottom line of that particular pursuit? Are our special forces going to benefit by having, for example, like trans special operators? Maybe, maybe not, but it's socially responsible. So we're going to friggin' do it, right? Like, why not? And then with governance too, right? Just saying like, okay, well, we have these other considerations. And I realize it may be sounding really insensitive to somebody who's like, hey, I'm a little bit left of center and you're being offensive, but like, no. Bear with me.
Hey, listen, we are First Amendment friendly in here. So you speak on what you speak on as long as everyone's respectful. You already know how we roll. Yeah, go for it.
Awesome. Yeah, just throwing it out there though. Like I did frame it, right? So yeah, before I got started. So same with the governance, just saying absolutely we have to put these considerations into law, because if we don't, think of this marginalized group. We have to make it a law. We have to force everybody to do it by threat of violence. Otherwise they won't do it. Right? That's ESG in a nutshell. Okay. It's just telling everybody like, look, we checked all these boxes and we're really good people and we can prove it because we checked all these boxes.
Yeah, and it's so for those of you that don't know, a lot of this is on an investment level. Okay, so a lot of this like bleeds into and is related around investment. So I'm going to read just a real little piece here, right? So it says environmental, social, and governance criteria are a set of standards for a company's behavior. The company's behavior used by socially conscious investors to screen potential investments. Environmental criteria consider how a company safeguards the environment, including corporate policies addressing climate change, for example. Social criteria examine how it manages relationships with employees, suppliers, customers, and the communities where it operates. Governance deals with the company's leadership, executive pay, audits, internal controls, and shareholder rights. And so what I think is interesting here is basically what they're saying is, okay, everything that your company is built on is going to be put through the filter of, well, are you doing it the way that we want you to do it? Because we've got a good way to make this happen. My question, and I as we get a little into this, I've got actually some the total negative side of it. That's the total opposite side. We'll get into that in a minute. But my question is, what is actually, so who's making money? Who's benefiting from this, right? They put these in place. A bunch of companies are like, okay, well, it's the cool thing to do. It's the hip thing to do. It's the woke thing to do. We got to do this. who's making money and why is this ESG just a big thing now?
Yeah, I think that's exactly the right question, man. If people are not smashing the like after you ask that question, like it is the eternal question when it comes to politics, when it comes to anything we can observe as humans, right, in this life, the modern world, because we're constantly being played and by all these other forces that we can't possibly imagine. But like you're saying, that's one of those keys to uncover the truth. I think here, like we saw this back with Al Gore, right? He came up with a movie called An Inconvenient Truth. And it's like, well, actually, if it's just a truth, it'd be very convenient to know that. Maybe just tell me. Already, I don't like the framing of this. Just out with it. What are you talking about? But he did this whole documentary talking about how, like, oh no, the polar caps are going to melt by I think he projected the year 2014.
Okay.
We're not underwater, so I don't know what he's talking about.
I was about to say we're not flooded yet, but okay.
Right. But he had this documentary where at the end, the upshot of it all was him saying, like, oh yeah. And in my campaign for this next office, the next political office that I'm gunning for, we're going to introduce this thing called carbon tax credits. You can help the environment by purchasing carbon tax credits. Now, what did he get on the back end? All kinds of stuff, right? He made friends in Washington. He made friends on Capitol Hill by introducing this plan. Businesses look more green and feel better about themselves and write off more of their the end of their fiscal year by applying for carbon tax credits without planting a single tree or doing anything that can provably improve the world around them. But to answer your question, it's not just policymakers by being able to introduce programs where people just pay. Essentially, it's like entitlements, right? Or like what was it the indulgences, right? Like, right, the ancient Catholic Church would sell indulgences, right? So people could be like, well, I really want to go to heaven, but I also really, really want to like have like a harem of prostitutes around me all the time. Like, and it's like, Mr. Pope, can't you like fix this problem for me? He's like, yeah, it's easy. You have gold. We could do something here. I'll talk to God about it, right? Yeah. But it's the same old stuff, right? Like, and different perceived authority and different perception of like, okay, now I can live without guilt. I'll just give these guys money and I look good. But on the flip side, also, there's this whole cottage industry of like green energy, which is kind of a farce, right? Like, I mean, and Trump, like him, love him, hate him, whatever, however you feel about him, he was kind of right about wind energy. It is kind of net negative. It's not even net neutral in terms of the environmental impact. But like we feel really good when we drive past these giant wind turbines and we think that's green energy. Gosh darn it. There's no denying that it's green. But like, where are we at the end of the day? We're net negative. It doesn't improve anything. Yeah. So yeah, the twofold, man, that the people who are peddling these technologies that help us in the pursuit of ESG and who have policies that allow you to obtain tax credits by either paying them off or by like just taking a hit.
Yeah, the problem, there's a lot of problems with this, but part of the problem is it becomes the good old boy system again. It's like, hey, who do you know? I always talk about the dinner parties. Who are you going to dinner with? Who are you talking to, right? Who's greasing whose palms to make something happen? Because the reality is, and nobody wants to hear this, right? As awesome as there is technology that is doing things like electric vehicles, right? As awesome as that is, the electric vehicle has to be powered, right? And the way that they figured out to power these things is with lithium. Now you ask, well, hang on a second. Well, how do you mine lithium? Well, that's a really complex thing. But if you pile all that together and then say, okay, we've looked at all of that. Now, what happens when lithium needs to go away? I mean, there's no way to actually get rid of it, so it's going to kill you know what I mean? We got to like ship that out to the moon or something. We got to get it off this planet because we don't have anything to do with it. So what I'm getting at is a lot of it is just rubbing your back and punching us in the gut at the same time. It's like trying to make you feel good about something as you're getting hurt. And I think it's sad because the American people get sold these ideas. And let's take it one step further. Investment companies put it out there as hey, we are ESG compliant. We do, and they're like, oh, so then you feel like this like obligatory, like, oh, they're doing something good for us. You know what? Like I knew I liked them. Let me maybe go ahead and invest a little bit more money. It is literally just that. I actually saw Sean. Sean said, and Sean's always got good stuff. He said, and I'm familiar actually with some Lockheed Martin. Even Lockheed Martin has been positioning itself in the ESG arena as a deterrence company, not a defense or weapons company. I'm going to say that I have somebody that's really close to me that has a meeting with them coming up soon about Hellfire missiles. So you tell me if that's a deterrence or are we talking weapons? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. It is what it is. So at any event, all this just to say, so we put up this front, these companies put up this front, they're taking money from people, they're serving up these energy credits. It's like a big Ponzi scheme, a way to just keep moving money around and make people feel good while it's moving. Here's the inconvenient part of it, right? And I'm gonna pull this up. Let's see here. So why are ESG funds doing so badly? Part of the explanation may simply be that an express focus on an ESG is redundant. In competitive labor markets and product markets, corporate managers trying to maximize long-term shareholder value should of their own accord pay attention to employee, customer, community, and environmental interests. On this basis, these targets may actually distort that decision-making. So there's evidence that these companies publicly embrace ESG as a cover, here's where it gets interesting, as a cover for poor business performance. A recent paper by Ryan Flugum of the University of Northern Iowa and Matthew Souther of the University of South Carolina reported that when managers underperform the earnings expectations, and those are set by analysts following their company, they often publicly talked about their focus on ESG. But when they exceeded those earnings expectations, they made few, if any, public statements related to ESG. So these sustainable fund managers who direct their investments to companies, they publicly embrace this ESG, right? Over their, basically they're over investing in financially underperforming companies. What am I getting at? I'm saying that they are feeding you again a line. They are telling you that they're doing all these great things when things are down because you're doing a good thing. And then on the other side, they're when everything's up and when prices are up and when you're just absolutely making money hand over fist, ESG isn't even a topic. So I think you asked me, Seth, something about Sri Lanka. Is Sri Lanka play into this? And actually, 1 second, come here, please. We got to take a real quick break. So this is the this is the break where we talk about Ledger hardware wallets. We've got a code down below because this young lady probably has more Bitcoin than a lot of you sitting in the stream right now. So we put that on a hardware wallet. It's the thing to do, right? She looks pretty happy about it, right? So hey, just throwing it out there. This is a shameless shill. Using my daughter for a shameless shill. Jump on the code, guys. She's excited about her Bitcoin. You guys can be excited, and hey, be your own bank.
That's awesome. I can think of no better reason to stack Satoshis than the next generation, man. That's awesome.
That's right. That's what it's all about, dude. So talk to me about Sri Lanka. I didn't get the full piece on where we were headed with that, but talk to me about Sri Lanka.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, yeah, Sri Lanka is an interesting case study in ESG, and it's the natural sort of logical conclusion and extreme of what happens when you pursue ESG over everything else. So, let's just say on a scale of 1 to 100, Nick, that rated on their ESG compliance or their ability to kind of like roll with this program or fool all of us, right, into believing that they're like ESG compliant. Like I'm going to ask you, but I'm going to ask chat also, you guys, okay? Scale of 1 to 100, where do you think the US lies? I'll let your audience kind of guess at that.
So 1 to 100, you're asking if there's a number. Is there actually a number system on it, or you're just trying to give me an idea?
There is a number system, and it's 0 to 100.
So 100 is you are the most ESG compliant you can be. 1 is you're dead in the water. You're just not doing anything, right?
Exactly. Yeah. 0, you're dead in the water. 100, you walk on water.
Okay. All right. So talk about it, chat. 1 to 100. Where is the USG or the USA in regards to ESG? I'm really interested to see what the chat says. Go ahead. Continue.
Yeah, so while we're talking about that, or while chat is deciding what it is that means, Sri Lanka is a case study, and it does have one of these numbers assigned to it. And I want to bring that up in just a second. The reason I brought that to your attention was because just talking about people who we're close to. That I'm close to somebody who almost set up a large scale Bitcoin mining operation in Sri Lanka that at that time was sanctioned by the Sri Lankan government.
Okay.
It had the blessing of all the local officials. Boxes, right? Things that are very difficult when you go to some of these marginalized countries that are developing nations, that if you're trying to set up a business there, you have to really consider this sort of thing because it can wreck your business plans. Like you can have do everything else right. And if you don't either grease the right palms or just know the right people, Sri Lankans are actually pretty above board for the most part. Not a whole lot of mafia or whatever, mafia activity, at least not there. Like other areas maybe, but Sri Lanka's, it's pretty above, it's a pretty clean country in that respect. Not too many shenanigans. And this group was like, we want to run this mining operation. It's going to scale to this amount. And we went through all the numbers, crunched the numbers to figure out whether or not Bitcoin mining could be profitable over a period of time. And again, this is somebody close to me. I just happened to see their books. Then I was like, but there's just one little thing. The whole Sri Lanka thing. Like, has it been done? And will it work well over time? Well, fast forward to today, Sri Lanka ranks pretty highly on that scale of 1 to 100.
Okay.
Now I have not seen chat guess, and I'm truly disappointed.
So I've seen some. So I've seen 69. Everybody's saying definitely a 69, right? Kenton says 20. Alan Griffin says 43. The Rob Father says 75. Somebody else said 100. Come on now. Palmetto Nick says 50. So we basically got some 22, some 29, some 50s, and then some 69s. Of course. 69.
Okay, got it. So 69. I mean, it's not a bad guess. It's always you always got to throw it just in case, right? Just got to throw it out there just in case you're right.
That's right.
Right? It's like, okay, I'm guessing. Okay. Usually from the misses, it's like, no, it's not that. So, okay, fine. Had to try, right? Had to try. So the USA scores a 51. So, yeah, was what's his name? Palmetto State Armory? Sorry. Somebody guessed a 50. You were pretty close.
Somebody guessed a 50. It was Palmetto Nick. Yep, and Nick.
Okay,
great name. So got it. Good, nice. Good job, Palmetto Nick.
He's got to be a builder, man. He really does. That's a great name. So anyway, but that's got 51 for the USA, and you would think, in the USA, we've been promoting this for so long. Al Gore has been preaching it to us. We've been changing our friggin' light bulbs once every 5 years for the last lifetime. So to new technologies. So surely we're gonna rate higher. Well, guess what? Sri Lanka was a friggin' 98 on this scale. A 98.
But
now, because they're a 98, at what cost, Nick? They sacrificed chemical fertilizers because that's on the ESG agenda. They sacrificed all kinds of infrastructure things but chief among them, chemical fertilizers. Modern agricultural technology is so dependent on chemical and synthetic fertilizers. Known any other way in our lifetime, possibly, and depending on the age of chat, most of our parents' lifetime, since the Green Revolution of the 1950s going into the 60s, the thing that kicked off all the grain proliferation throughout the world. Yeah, it's had some problems in terms of diet, but it's fed more people around the world, right? It's allowed for the population to expand to what it is today. Well, in Sri Lanka, what happens really, really fast when you get rid of chemical fertilizers. That score of 98 on the ESG punch card, check card, little bingo, hey, I'm ESG compliant.
Right.
Cost them their crops this last year. Their crop production is down by over 30%. People are actually hungry. They're rioting. They took over the presidential palace. Their equivalent to the White House, they didn't just have a January 6th. They had people actually went in, set up shop, started camping inside of the presidential quarters, and said yeah, you guys are done. You've done nothing to help us at all. Obviously the whole thing was a farce. Good for you. Pat yourself on the back. You got that near 100 score on your ESG bingo card, and we're all starving.
Good God, dude. So that's a great example. I did not know that, first of all, but it is another example of, hey, we're going to smile and tell you things are good, and it ends up hurting the economy. It's the same thing as, California. Listen, the rolling blackouts that are so a lot of you are asking, hey, what does this have to do with crypto, whatever? Well, you guys know we've got Danger Close Alpha. We are trying to get people prepared for what is happening, what is coming. We want to bring that crypto community together with the prepper community. We're not saying you got to build a bunker in your backyard, right? But we're saying you should get yourselves educated and understand. And there's like some worldly things happening. This would be a great example of things that are happening that are going to affect you, right? Whether you want to admit it or not, they're going to affect you. And let me tell you how this directly is going to affect you. So we've got all this ESG compliance stuff that's floating around. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. We're giving out energy credits. We've got doing all of these quote unquote great things. Well, while that's happening, we have rolling blackouts going through the United States. Well, why do we have rolling blackouts all of a sudden? Like, what's happened? Isn't technology getting better, and we're able to use, less basically amperage with less power? Like, basically, we're able to produce more power with less output, right? We can do that right now. That's a fact. Okay, so why are we having rolling blackouts now? Well, because you have states like California. Sorry if you live in California, you live in a bum state. California is out there saying, hey, we've got to be totally, carbon neutral, no electric cars, whatever the case may be by 2025, 2030. I don't remember if it's 2025 or 2030. I think it might be 2030. And so what's happening as a result of that, you've got all of these people buying up electric cars. You've got all of these Tesla charging stations, all of these things sucking massive amounts of energy off the power grid. And now what's going to happen? People are going to suffer because they can't get the power that they need. Did anyone mention that they need this power in homes that have air conditioning that is operated from electric? Like, did nobody think about this? So now you're going to have people that are going to have these rolling blackouts happening. It's going to be hot as heck outside, and they're going to lose their air conditioning, just as a simple first world problem. Right? That's just a first world problem. Then you take it all the way to the other extreme. What Seth's talking about, hey, we're going full bore. We're going 98, baby. We're getting rid of all chemical fertilizers. And now all of a sudden, people in the country aren't freaking eating. We've already got food shortages happening right now, right? We've already got this stuff happening. If we continue to push this narrative, which it is a narrative, we are in trouble. So that brings me to my kind of final kind of thought question here, Seth. What do we do? Like, we're in a position to where it's been fed to people as if this is a great thing. It's hard to change people's kind of thought process, mind, whatever. And the politicians own all of the media outlets, which are going to push the information as if you're bad people if you operating on natural gas or whatever the heck whatever you're using. What do we do? I genuinely want to know. What do you think we do?
That's a brilliant question, man, because the system now is pretty well entrenched. It's pretty well established. The idea that you're going to get tax credits for doing certain things. You're going to have incentives that financially are hard to get rid of, especially now with the hidden tax of inflation, right? Like, when you see a financial incentive to do things a certain way, the average American, and by average American, I mean middle-class American, who, by the way, is going to go extinct if inflation continues, you're going to do what you have to maintain your net worth. You're going to do what you have to hold on to your wealth. And these incentives are only going to grow. So you have to figure out, how can I be a little more, how can I make myself a little more unkillable by financial problems? How can I make myself a little bit more, a little more unkillable when it comes to shortages in certain areas, one category or another? How do I get off grid? How do I stay off grid? How do I wean myself from the grid and make myself less dependent on these systems that, like you said, Nick, are actively failing in other states? Like the first world expression of this, it's actively failing, the infrastructure. So how do we opt out? Like, baby steps, right? How do you eat an elephant, man? One bite at a time. So can you do something for on-site power generation? Maybe. Can you do something for on-site water storage? Maybe. What does that have to do with power? Well, it might be more related than you think. If you do have any kind of like a water storage system, if you're next to flowing water, you can set up hydroelectric turbines that don't even require a whole lot of flow rate next to a body of water if you have the water tower, right? So you run your turbine at the bottom of your water tower and keep it circulating so your water tower supply is fresh. This is an old trick that we see all across the South, right? Especially in Texas.
Yep.
You see it in a lot of places. And it's old school engineering to save power in the form of kinetic energy, or potential energy rather, in water towers. So, like, not to get too nerdy or talk about like the science project, like there's so many ways to do this, but in my mind, like it's that question that we just have to like keep we have to to act, to say like, okay, am I still dependent on these systems that are failing? How do I take a baby step towards independence today. That's how.
Yeah.
Just every day. Wake up and every day be about having more preparedness and being less reliant on these failing systems.
Yeah, dude, because and that's great. And I love that you're saying it as baby steps, because I think a lot of times people look at the big picture and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like I don't know what to do." And I know that it was a funny thing. I'm going to throw her out here. I did the video the other day on like, "Hey, the grid goes down. What's the first thing you do?" And the funniest freaking response was Shambles literally, it like cuts to her and she's pouring out the bottle of wine. She's just killing the rest of a bottle of wine. And I think so first of all, it was really funny. It was appropriate. All of those great things, right? But I think a lot of people feel like that is what I'm getting at. They're like, "Oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. What am I going to do?" Right. And I even had people in the comments say like, "Start drinking, man." You know what I mean? It's over. But the reality is, right. And I know that was all in good fun and it was a great response. But the reality is people do get overwhelmed like that because they look at it as a whole picture. So I have ADD. And one of the things that I've learned as part of having ADD is I have to compartmentalize like smaller pieces, because here's what will happen to me. I will kind of try to put something aside, put something aside, put something aside. And then all of a sudden, let's use laundry as an example, right? I put a little bit of laundry, right? No big deal. I'll get it. A little bit of laundry, right? And I'm a really clean person too, right? Keep that in mind, right? I'm like super hyper, like, ADD people are strange, right? I'm strange. Okay. And so you put a little bit, and then a little bit turns into a lot of it. And then a lot of it turns into, "Oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. I'm never going to be able to tackle this." When a lot of people would be able to look at a huge pile and say, "Well, you know what? I can get that done over the course of a day and a half or 2 days in just little pieces." And that's what needs to happen here. It needs to just be small things that you can do to be able to continue pressing yourself forward, right? Not backwards, not even treading water. We want to press forward. So if it's water, right? Maybe you start off with just having some extra stores of water that you know is going to stay good for however long, right? Then maybe you're like, "You know what? I could spend a couple extra bucks. I'm going to do some rain barrels, right? I'm going to put those up underneath my gutters. I'm going to figure out how to actually purify to make sure all of the stuff coming off the shingles isn't bird poop and all that into my water." Okay, cool.
Now Western California, I think they literally outlawed rainwater collection. So
dude,
careful, your mileage may vary.
That's a whole nother, again, California, welcome, right? And well, Ohio only lets you store so much as long as you're not serving it to like more than like 25 people or something like that.
Oh, right. Or doing something where you actually take care of the homeless. Right. That too. I forgot. You can't help people.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. If they're not making money off of it, they ain't interested in you trying to help somebody. You know what I mean? But what I'm getting at is you can do those small steps. You start food preparation. Okay. Well, you don't have to just go out and have, a herd of cattle all of a sudden in your backyard and you're ready for all of the food whenever you need it. No, you buy some food, you work on storage, you buy some Mylar bags so that you know that you can, actually seal them, airtight, and you start working little pieces at a time. And I think that too many people get overwhelmed, like the ADD guy right here, and sees the whole picture and say, "What do I do?" And I don't think it needs to be that. So I think it'll be interesting to see when we have all of this, because the energy thing has always made me just shake my head, because I do know the truth. I do know that a lot of this is literally nothing more than lining someone else's pockets and trying to make people feel good about it at the same time. Like, it's just a farce. It is. And so I've always kind of shook my head like, there's just no way this is what they're presenting it as. And now we're seeing it come to fruition, but it's having a negative impact. Dude, it's gross. You know what I mean? Our world. Yeah. Our world is kind of heading in this direction. I heard somebody say like, I think it was at the end of a TikTok that I stitched or that I duetted or something. He said, your grandfather was watching his buddy's hands and feet get blown off over in Vietnam, and you're worried about having a mean tweet or whatever, right? But it's such a real thing. Like, we have so many things that just slowly but surely are like really small, and then they build up, and then they build up, and then they build up, and people are just lost. So
yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah. Hey, can I do a quick shout out?
Yeah,
I see somebody
sure.
in the
Sure.
I see a TikTok friend in the YouTube comments here, Hazley Jane.
Hazley,
some really great Speaking of ADHD and creators and somebody who's like talks pretty openly about having to come up with systems, like no, she's a real gem in the community. So it's cool. She's dropping some knowledge on your comments.
Yeah, but, no, Hazley's great. She's been doing some good responses on some of the videos too. She's been in the community for a little while here too. So we appreciate you. Shout out Hazley. Shout out to everybody in the chat, guys. You have been, as always, fan-freaking-tastic. Again, it's Friday. You could be anywhere, but you're here. So we thank you very much for being here. Seth, again, dude, thank you very much for coming on. It's always a pleasure. We'll continue to have you on until you just tell me no. So, you know, standing invite here. So make sure that you keep coming. We appreciate it. And Crypto Fam, we love you guys. We appreciate each and every one of you for being here. Just remember to question everything, trust nothing. And until next time, hodl like it's hot. We'll see you soon.